Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about something that is rather unglamorous, but nonetheless needs to be discussed. And that is how to price your social media marketing services. So let's get into it. Now, unsurprisingly, this is an extremely complicated topic, so I'm going to try and break down this video into 3 separate elements. Now, before we continue, I thought I'd let you know that if you go to the description of this video, you're going to actually find timestamps for all the relevant parts of the video. So, like if you run, for example, an e-commerce agency, you can just skip to that part. But to be honest, I recommend you watch the whole thing just to get as much of an understanding as possible. And apart from that, in the description, I'm also going to go ahead and put the GrowYourAgency glossary in the description. So like if there's a term that I use that you don't understand it, just head there and you'll find a full definition. But nonetheless, let's get into today's teaching. Now, first things first, we're going to cover how to define your service, then how to price convenience-based services, and that'll make sense in a second. And then lastly, how to price results-based services. Now, previously you might have heard me talking about niches. Now, I want to stress at this point that defining your services isn't the same thing as choosing which service you want to offer or who you want to offer it to. It's about putting your services into one of 2 categories. To do this, you just have to ask yourself a simple question. Does my service save my client time or make them money? And when I say make them money, technically as a social media marketing provider, if you're helping them with Instagram stories, or you're doing content creation, or you're doing social media growth and distribution, you're still making them money, but there's no discernible ROI, and there's just a bit of a disconnect in trying to prove that ROI to the client. So technically, whatever you're doing for your client, you're gonna be making them money. But when I say, does it make them money, and can you kind of track how it's making them money? That's really the biggest difference. Answering this question will put your service into one of 2 categories: convenience-based or results-based. Now, some of you guys may know that in a previous life of my agency, IAG Media, I actually offered content creation and social media management to clients. When I first started, and really for my first 18 months, I was a creative agency, and this was a convenience-based offer. It's great for me because I could deliver myself without having much expertise. But because the service didn't explicitly make the client money, it was extremely difficult to justify the cost of my retainer. And I mean, in all fairness, some of my clients I was charging £2,500 a month to, which comes out to like $3,200 a month. So good money. It's just, the longevity of those clients, very few of those clients stayed more than 4 or 5 months. And throughout the relationship together, it was always a question of, so this is amazing. Our social platforms are growing, our content is incredible, all this stuff, but what's the ROI? And this is something that, this is really the biggest struggle I was facing. And it felt like, really having a pair of golden handcuffs, because I was still making $15,000, $20,000 a month in my agency at the age of 17, but it came with its frustration. Fast forward to 2020, the past 2 years, I've been exclusively offering paid traffic services to my clients. And this is a results-based service. So at the end of every month, I can directly link the work we've done as an agency to the revenue of the client, especially because we work with e-commerce and info product businesses. It's a total black and white. We've spent this much and we've been able to bring you back this much in terms of website conversion value. Now, one thing I do want to say is one service is not better than the other. I think if I knew what I knew now, I could have scaled my creative agency very easily to 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month. And in fact, I have students who have creative agencies who are doing around that 6-figure a month territory. All it means is you just have to price your services differently depending on what you offer, and also the framing and the expectations have to be a little different. Let's deal with convenience-based offers first. Now remember, these include content creation, social media management. Now before we continue, I'm going to take a moment to explain that generally speaking, convenience-based services struggle to demand higher retainers. Unless you're working with a brand that has thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands to spend on super top of the funnel marketing and those sort of brand awareness campaigns, you're only going to be able to charge anywhere from $500 to $3,000 a month. That's kind of the territory that I've seen for a convenience-based offer. And this is why when you're working out how much to charge, it's more important to work out what, first of all, you need to charge rather than what the client can afford. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. You see, pricing a convenience-based offer is very much striking a balance between 2 things: what the client can afford and what you can afford, or what you're aiming to make. You see, each side is multifaceted. So, let's take a look at this illustration to really show what I mean by this. Let's say you're offering social media management. There are 4 variables to take into account when deciding how to price your services. It takes an element of reverse engineering to kind of get this process, but let's say you know that you want to make $4,000 a month, like that is your North Star. Make $4,000 a month and you're gonna have a social media marketing agency that basically does distribution, social media management, and some growth. And you know that in terms of service delivery, let's say you are going to college or you have a job, so you only have around 20 hours a month spare that you can use for service delivery. And you know that each client for social media management takes around 5 hours a month to service. And these clients can afford in the territory of $1,000 a month. You see, you're in a good position. In fact, you're in the perfect position, because let's say hypothetically the client could only afford $250 a month, then you'll know that you'll have to work 4 times as hard in order to make the same profit. Likewise, if each client can afford $2,000 per month, this can be reflected in the amount of clients you can sign to maintain the same work-life balance. Now, the next question is, what can the client afford? Now, unfortunately, the answer to this question can really only come through 2 things: research and experience. And one honorary mention is just market comparables. As I said, I was charging some of my clients at the age of 17, $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month, $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month. And I knew that there were other agencies charging that same amount for content creation, distribution, and growth. But I didn't see too many agencies charging, let's say, for example, $8,000 a month for those same services. So it's one of those things where technically there's no discernible ROI on what you're doing, but the more that you can make it self-evident to your client, as well as just mixing in some experience that you have, as well as some market comparables, that should give you a good direction and a good read on what to charge. Now let's talk about results-based. Now, results-based services are the bread and butter of most large agencies because they allow you to charge much bigger retainers, but they also require that you're able to justify these prices to clients. Yes, potentially I could go to a large corporation used to spending 10 to 15K on agencies and charge my fee without justification, but those type of clients are incredibly rare. The great thing about running a boutique agency is that you're able to command much higher fees and justify them. Once more, you have to separate 2 different types of results-based services, okay? First thing is lead generation, all right? Is your service lead generation based where you're only responsible for generating leads and not the end product sales? Or are your efforts directly linked to the revenue? For example, with info product, e-commerce, SaaS, anything where the transaction is made online and it's trackable, then really the responsibility lays with you. Now, for lead generation, there's one golden rule when it comes to pricing your services, and that's that you should be delivering at least twice the value you charge your clients. So your retainer should be approximately half the lifetime value of the number of customers that you have brought to your client. Now, it's important to note that a lead doesn't mean a customer, so you also need to work out with your client the percentage of leads that convert into customers. And the other thing you're gonna need to do is figure out their gross margins. Now, this is different from their pure margin. So let's say, for example, you're working with a dentist, and let's say, for example, you bring them in 4 new customers that month. You need to figure out what the lifetime value of those customers are with your client, and then minus any sort of gross margins. But this is also different from the bottom line margins. You see, here's the thing. As a dentist, for example, you're paying rent, you're paying your employees, you're paying insurance, all this stuff. When you bring 1 extra customer in, their rent doesn't go up. So this is something where you might be talking with your client, and the client's like, oh, but my margins are only 8%. When really, if you bring them in a customer, gross margins on that customer is 80%. And the reason that it's 80% is because let's say they're paying, let's say they're paying for a teeth whitening, and it's the entire package is like $600. That doesn't mean that it should be $600, minus 90% because their margins are only 10%. That means that it's $600 minus what are the actual costs associated to that? Like, as in, like, what are the supplies needed? They may only be $40, $50. How much are they paying the staff hourly? And are there 2 members of staff there in order to service that client? And how many hours are they spending? That might come out to only another $50. So rather than the client may say, oh, but my margins are only 10%. Yes, that's your bottom line margins. But what I've brought you, taking into consideration your gross margins, they may be closer to like 70, 80%. So that's something to note as well. You want to figure out the lifetime value of that customer minus any of the costs associated to delivering the product or the service to that customer. And you want to make sure that your retainer is no more than double that. So let's say you've gone ahead and figured out that entire calculation, and you know the gross lifetime value of 4 customers that you bring in that month comes out to, let's say, $6,000. You really don't want to be charging more than $3,000 in that instance. And also the way that you figure out how many customers you're bringing in is you have to figure out how are you getting customers through the door and what percentage of people who you bring through the door with an offer or a discount or something to get them through the door, some sort of lead magnet to get through the door, what percentage of those people are then actually becoming paying customers. So this is actually a quick recording of the sheet that agency incubator students get, which illustrates how you work out the lifetime value of a customer. I love showing this to clients as most of the time they don't actually even know what the lifetime value of their customers are. This alone just shows them like, look, you know what you are talking about. So yeah, this is definitely awesome to go through and work with in terms of your client. Now, e-commerce is often seen as the the holy grail for agency owners, and to be honest, I think too many people are fixated on e-commerce and info product. Especially info product, by far it is the hardest niche to actually get results for in service. In terms of e-commerce, once again, it takes 4 or 5 times the amount of skill that a local real estate agent or dentist or gym. It takes 4 or 5 times the amount of effort. And when it comes to pricing, e-commerce and info product businesses, there is a big issue, and that's ironically, there's no golden rule for e-commerce and info product businesses. I don't have too much time here today to go through my full outline and kind of give you an example and break down every single number in terms of how to price local businesses. But that is very, very easy, and it's very, very methodical. And I give people the same framework that I used for 18 months when I was first getting started in servicing local businesses. But people ask me, how do you price your info product and e-commerce clients? And as I said, there's no golden rule. Most of it comes down to gut instinct. I've underpriced myself before, I've overpriced myself before, and you might be wondering, how does one overprice themselves? Well, I especially fell victim to this in 2019, where like my goal was to make every single client a whale client. So you guys that don't know, at GrowYourAgency.com, we have a tiered system, and a whale client is basically a client that pays $8,333 per month in service fee per month, or at least that amount, because that equates to $100,000 a year in service fee. I would have clients that gut instinct told me charge them like 5,600 pounds a month. I would literally bump it up to 6,800 pounds a month, which would just make it to $8,300 a month, just so I could be like, bagged another whale. And while that's cool and all, after the 3-month minimum, from there, clients would realize like, yo, this is pretty expensive. Like, I have 2 people in-house performance marketer wise. So while I was making more per month, the longevity of them, pretty much the only reason clients left us is because we were getting them incredible results, but they also were like, yo, this is quite expensive. Like, I could probably just bring this in-house. And that was, the times where we did lose clients in 2019 at my agency, it was never because we didn't get good results. It was always a matter of like, okay, we're just gonna bring this in-house because it's pretty expensive. So as I said, pricing e-commerce and info product businesses, especially even this year, I have been going, most of my deals actually this year have been below 5,000 pounds a month. And last year that was very rare for me. So this year, most of my deals have been 2,500 pounds a month, 3,500 pounds a month. But rather than 3-month minimums, 6-month minimums, and more of the money is being made from the percentage of return on ad spend that we bring to clients. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there really is no golden rule. I mean, yeah, even the last deal I did, it was a 6-month minimum, 2,500 pounds a month. And this client is already spending over 6 figures a month on ads and returning around 2x. So that means that like, if I was charging, our standard 10% return on ad spend for an e-commerce client, I would already be taking 10 grand a month in billables. So I knew the client would never say yes to that. So with that client, I actually went anything that we make over 2x. So that means that, so let's say for example, the barometer is set at 2x. If we make them a 2.5x, spend 100 grand and make them 250 grand, the standard and the expectation is set as 2x. So that'd be 200 grand. We brought them in 250 grand. That spread is 50 grand. And I actually take a 15% return on ad spend on that spread. So that means in that instance, I would be taking our 2.5K base fee plus a 7.5K performance fee. And we're 100% confident that we can hit that with that client. So that would be around 10,000 pounds, which is $13,000 in terms of our billables for that month. So once again, when I say that there's really no golden rule, like you have to be quick on your feet when it comes to e-commerce and info product businesses, and you have to use gut instinct, you have to use a bit of logic, and as I said, one of the main things that I see a lot of agency owners do, once they get past the beginning bit, which is they underpricing themselves, is they overprice themselves. And as I said, that's an actual thing. Like, the best thing you can do is longevity and The best thing you can do is get your agency to the point where your retention rate with clients is around 12 months, a year. And you know, that's really where you've got a super healthy agency with super predictable cash flows. So as I said, ladies and gents, this is just some stuff that you have to take into consideration. You know, profit margins, what's your agency experience, you know, extra work involved, ROAS, and you know, longevity, as I've been talking about. So ladies and gentlemen, the action step for today's video is, first of all, comment below to be drawn into Gadzhi giveaway. As many of you guys know, Gadzhi is my bespoke clothing line. I'm actually wearing season 1. In every single video, I do a giveaway winner. All you have to do is subscribe, turn on post notifications, and comment within the first 2 hours of the new video going live. So assuming that this video has been uploaded more than 2 hours ago, then just go ahead, hit subscribe, turn on post notifications, and on the next video within the first 2 hours, comment, and you'll be drawn in to win. You can also go ahead and find last video's giveaway winner in the description. The second action step is go ahead and subscribe to the extended channel. The link is in the description. On that channel, I don't care about SEO, rankings, this, that. On that channel, you know, I talk to my CMO, Danny, for 45 minutes, and we just riff on about things that are working at the agency, or, you know, Kieran or Luis, you know, all these, you know, my members at the agency. You know, on there, sometimes I'll just hit record and talk for 20 minutes on whatever's on my mind. On there, I have student interviews every single Tuesday. You know, I have student interviews with students who are making over 100K a month, all the way to students who have just signed their first 2-3 clients within their first 30 days of starting an agency. And action step number 3 is go ahead and check out, I have a full 15-minute demo, basically everything uncovered, broken down, and I show everything that comes with Agency Incubator, which is my flagship program that takes people from 0 to 10K a month in blistering speeds with their agency. So as I said, the link is in the description. You can go ahead on the sales page and there's a full 15-minute demo. You know, when you have a good product, you like to show it off, and I show you every single thing that comes with the program, as well as the community, etc., etc. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.